Great honour to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Moreno, who is a member of the Anaheim City Council and also our keynote speaker on intercultural communication. So I'll hand over to Kate. She's going to tell you a little bit more about Dr. Moreno's background and his work here in the Anaheim district. And then she'll ask you to join us together in giving a very warm welcome to our next speaker.
Thank you. Dr. Jose Moreno previously served on the Anaheim City School Board District Board of Education. He's an associate professor and former chair in the Department of Chicano and Latino Studies at California State University, Long Beach. Dr. Moreno received his bachelor's in social ecology from the University of California, Irvine, and his master's and doctorate in administration, planning, and social policy from Harvard University. Dr. Moreno is president of Los Amigos of Orange County, and he sits on the boards of Orange County Community Housing Corporation and the Orange County Communities for Responsible Development. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Dr. Jose Moreno.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Dr. Noonan, for the invitation this afternoon. Buenas tardes, everybody. We're past noon, yeah, so buenas tardes. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And again, thank you for the invitation to share some thoughts about certainly my process, but the process really that a lot of us are struggling with, or maybe thinking that we're challenged by, but really is really about the struggle of what it means to be free and what it means to pursue a life of liberty mixed with ambition. So I'd like to share with you some thoughts about liberty and ambition and my stab at a poem, if that's okay, being it's a multicultural education to engage the creative side and see that as part of their academic side. A lot of times as academics, especially with my background being in quantitative methods and looking at it through the scientific method, we're often discouraged from using our full creative mind, to use our heart to inform our mind and feed the spirit so that we might then engage the world to be more fully human, as Paulo Freire once mentioned. How many of you have heard of Paulo Freire? Oh yeah, all right. How many of you have heard a poem that we're in the month of August by Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez called I Am Joaquin? The Chicano Studies majors. No. I see Dr. Luis Rodriguez back there, who, if you don't know him, you should get to know him and read his excellent book on inclusive excellence. Professor at UC Riverside, and a colleague from Harvard where we met. I'm going to read you an excerpt or what a colleague and I, Dr. Juan Benitez, wrote together our own version of I Am Joaquin, which was really seen by young Chicano and Chicana youth in the late 1960s during the Chicano and Chicana civil rights movements, a way to proclaim a sense of self, a sense of identity, and a sense of liberty. I really struggled on how to put together this conversation or this presentation for you today, because again, we're trying to put up slides and data and demography and remind you Latinos are coming, Latinos are coming, Latinos are coming. They're speaking English and Spanish, they're speaking now Mandarin, they're speaking Vietnamese, so they're coming, get ready, get ready, get ready. But I just think that's a tired song, to be honest with you, because that's something I've been hearing since I was an undergrad in the late 80s. They're coming, they're coming, they're coming. Well, we're here. And we've been here, as we'll learn later through our introduction to Silvia Mendez, the legendary Silvia Mendez from the Mendez family, the Mendez was So I will read this, and I'll read it in my best presentative voice. I was not trained as a poet, so my wife Lorena is there. She's looking at me like, "Are you really going to do it?" I'm going to do it. And then I'll share with you what really fed this. What really fed how we shifted this I Am Joaquin to a very personalized level, Because it really is, when you're an undocumented immigrant growing up in the United States, we migrated in 1974 to Oxnard, California, and I have to say Oxnard, that's my accent because I was taught you have to say perfect in case immigration catches you gotta say Oxnard, not Oxnard, not Oxnard, you gotta say Oxnard. So that process of being undocumented and being told you have to learn English right away, and you have to be American right away, and you start to take on a different identity, which many of our young people are struggling with. Be they Latino, be they white, be they whatever they may be, our schools have not been the most effective in engaging our youth around who they are. We engage them on who we want them to be, but we don't engage them on who they are today. Right? And so to know what you want to be, you gotta know who you are. So through that, a colleague and I, Juan Benitez, and I at Cal State Long Beach, experiencing the life of being professors, Chicano professors at what's called the Hispanic Serving Institution, Cal State Long Beach. As young academics there, we were really struggling because we had a campus and an institution and a culture of higher ed saying they wanted us, they want more diversity, they want more Chicanos, and they want more African Americans, and yet we're in Long Beach and there's 1,000 full-time professors and 35 African American professors. And we say, wait a second, this is like Snoop Dogg territory. We can't get black faculty to come here because they said that black faculty wouldn't come. Not to Long Beach? Well, where are they going? We said, well, they're all going to Stanford because we know that when there's a black PhD, Stanford swoops them up. No, they're not going to Stanford. Well, they're going to UC Berkeley. They're not there either. When we talk about Chicano faculty at Long Beach, we have 63 now, Latino faculty at Cal State Long Beach. And they're telling us that they value diversity. So we were reliving Juan and I, because he grew up in Tijuana, this bicultural existence of you tell us you want us, but then we don't find ourselves here. When we look at the data overall, which many of you know, out of 100 Latino kindergartners growing up in the U.S., only one will get less than one gets a PhD or a doctorate. So take the picture of Dr. Rodriguez back there, because he's a rare animal, right? He's an odd bird in our society. So we often encounter in the classroom our students who themselves are trying to claim an identity for themselves. Look at us, and they're saying, "You've done it. How did you do it? You know who you are. Teach us." And we're like, actually, we don't. We're still trying to figure it out as Chicano professors. And that's what led us to write this together. And it is, I am Jose. I am Jose, lost in the world of higher education, caught up in a world of a white supremacist patriarchal institution. Confused by the process, scorned by the policy, suppressed by complacency, and destroyed by the status quo. My mothers have lost the social justice war, and we won the struggle of educational negligence, and now I must choose between the paradox of access and little hope of success, despite mental starvation or to exist in the grasp of university, cultural schizophrenia, impotency of knowledge, and mindful, yes, I have read many books and am illiterate. Unwittingly tossed through the maze of A through G and IT and the technocratic organized anarchy called the Hispanic Serving Institution, I look at the other, I watch my sisters and my brothers, I sweat droplets of ignorance and sow seeds of hope, I withdraw to the safety within my own social networks. My own nature, I am brown Jesus, conscious and self-determined, reflection of my community produced by the Chicano and Chicana movements, fulfilling the dreams of Felicitas and Gonzalo Mendez, who also is the blood, the image of myself. I was the chair of Chicano and Latino Studies. I am Joe White, founder of EOP Lombo. I am the word in the book of the lost tribe of Richard Rodriguez, and I am Dolores and Cesar of the farm worker struggle. I take 4 bus transfers to get to school on the serpent called the 710. And I toiled in my segregated school and gave my Indian sweat and blood for the subtractive master who ruled by tracking me and my language so that I may become proficient. But education was mine. I became both the oppressed and the oppressor. As no child left behind took its place in democracy's name, to take and use my trusting faith, my teachers, both good and bad, took but gave a lasting truth that Hispanic, Latino, Chicano were all America's children. And from these words grew persons who read and taught for their own worth as human beings. For that golden moment of freedom called concientización, I was in part blood and spirit of that courageous high school student, Paula Crisostomo, who in the year 1969 yelled into the megaphone, and gave out that lasting cry in her school, "Walk out." Leading the grand educator Sal Castro to proclaim, "It's a beautiful day to be Chicano." We forgot her. We ignored him, our historia. He joined the university and declared a major that could land him the best paying job. He killed the movement. His mind, which is mine, and all of those who have come this way, I placed on that dean's list to wait for graduation. Simón, que yes, all compañeros y compañeras in the act, we're one of the 15% to get a BA. To hold that diploma which I earned, I died with them, I lived with them, I lived to see a raza free. Free from practice schooling in 2017, but was raza free? The miseducation was exposed, but all the teachers remained and lectured and gave multiple choice exams with Scantrons and number 2 pencils and blue books. I memorized, I studied alone, I skimmed the readings, I copied, and I stayed silent in a class despite the delusion of encouraged participation. I fought and died John, Jane, and Joe, majors and double majors. I was the ivory tower on his way to tenure and promotion, and what retention, tenure, and promotion processes dictate. She held her Go Beach sweater in her hand in the Raza Resource Center with beat-up furniture up on the fringe of her campus. And this giant little Chicanita gave not one critical thought of her, of his campus's rejection, exclusion, marginalization. I am Jose. I studied with Burciaga and Ansaldúa with no financial aid, with AP 540 students pushing for the dream to act. Nourished and inspired by the militant ethos called Chicanismo, I am the wetback. Ni de aquí, ni de allá. The hopes, the dreams, the fears. Made in Mexico, assembled in the U.S. The hopes, the dreams, the fears that belong to our Chicanitos and Chicanitas. Our education, or yours, is the only trade for reflective action, praxis. All of which is our reward, a transformation that formed a concientización for all who dare to live free. We come here not to work for the university, but to demand that the university work for us, is what they said in 1969 in the Plan de Santa Barbara. I ride with revolutionists against myself. I am Hispanic, politically correct. I am the Greek Latino or Latina on campus, superior overall. Latino, Latina, Boricua, Chicano, Chicana, Centroamericano, Americana, Mexican, American, American, Mexican, hyphenated, Hispanic, Herpanic, Hispanic. I have been the armchair revolutionist, the victor, the vanquished. I have subtracted and I've been subtracted. I am the despot Schwarzenegger and Wilson, and the apostle of a liberation, education, of radical love, of care. I am Paulo Freire, my educated tia who showed me how to live depending on the time and the place. I'm the faithful Chicano historian and humble Luis Arroyo. The Adelitas, Irma Corona Nieto too, at Cal State Long Beach, who wrote The Sands of the Beach. I wrote East Campus and North Campus as far as the foundation building, and all who feared the intellect of Chiles. I questioned those administrators who dared to speak, who dismissed and suppressed my love, Centro. Then I questioned to stay alive and to thrive. I was Ana Sandoval, living my lives fully. I was Robert Lara, Imelda Quintanar, and Rosa Carrillo of CSU Longo, no longer there. All were added to the number of heads that in the mantra of Go Beach were placed on the fountains of Brahman Hall, heads of brave raza who paid the price for cause or principle, good or bad. These are but a few. They dared to face the force of tyranny of the beach, or is it higher education? Ruled by deception and hypocrisy, I stand here looking back, and now I see the present, and still I am a believer. I am the cultural broker, I of the same name Jose, on a campus that has wiped out all my history, stifled all my pride, on a campus that has played Prospector Pete, representing the 49er minor in my eatery. Inferiority is the new load. The student has entered the winner, the faculty must yet overcome, and the institution will just ignore it. I look at myself and see part of me who rejects my ethics and my communal sense, and dissolves into the melting pot to disappear in shame. I am tempted to sell my family out and reclaim them for my own when executives give me token leadership. In society's own name, I am Jose who bleeds in many ways. Here I stand before the court of justice, guilty for all the glory of my raza, to be sentenced to despair. Here I stand, poor in money, arrogant with pride, bold with chicanismo, rich in courage, and wealthy in spirit and faith. My eyes tired and swollen from the book. I have made schools proud, yet equality is but a word. The promises of the movements have been broken. My mind is lost and stolen. My culture has been stripped. I lengthened the line of the financial aid door and filled remedial classes. This society has for sons of chiefs, kings, and queens, and feisty revolutionists, whose parents gave the foreign people their trust and faith, con todo y sin. To pave the way with transitional English and falsified history for those hordes of benevolent strangers who changed our language and plagiarized our deeds as feats of valor of their own. They frowned upon our way of life and took what they could use, our art, our literature, our music. They ignored, so they left the real things of value and grabbed at their own destruction by their greed and their avarice. They overlooked the cleansing fountain of nature and brotherhood, which is Jose. And as Corky would say, I am Joaquin, the arts are great, but my spirit is strong. My faith is unbreakable, my blood is pure, I shall endure, we will endure. I am Jose. I decided to read that today, knowing that this might be videotaped, Facebook Live, or whatnot. I'm an elected official in Orange County. And that is the experience that many of us, who, because of the fight and the struggle of generations of people, many of us are now beginning to go back into the halls of power that were once held by many folks in our community historically. So we have to ask ourselves what that means to us in this time of liberty, but ambition. Because we tell our young children from working poor, working class neighborhoods, our immigrant children, our historically marginalized legacies of slavery and conquest, we tell them, just work hard, go to school, attend school every day, read your books, learn English, learn it well, take the test well, and everything will be all right for you. Right? That's what education is. Education is the great transformer. It is the great equalizer. But for those of us who studied history, those of us who've engaged history, we know it's not as simple. There's a duality. It is the great equalizer, or it could be. But we've known education for many in our community to be the great unequalizer. Segregated schools, track curriculum, teachers who were let go during the era of desegregation. The greatest loss of capital during the time of desegregation, which is often lost in history, is that black schools, black teachers, black principals, black leadership was released from their duties and were not hired at white schools. We asked black children and brown children to be bused miles and miles so they can get a quality education. It's a loss. So as we do that, we have to always be in that duality. So I want to share a couple of anecdotes of why I felt important, one, to pursue the professoriate, but to pursue it on the terms of what this poem is about. On the terms of liberty, but with the ambition to liberate. Not for the ambition of profession, but to liberate through education. Jose Martí, the great Cuban poet and essayist, patriot, and martyr, who became the symbol of Cuba's struggle for independence from Spain, once said, "Liberty is the right of every man to be honest, to think, and to speak without hypocrisy." So you read that as a politician, you're like, holy smokes. Right, as a councilman. By the way, welcome to the city of Anaheim. So on behalf of the mayor and the city council, welcome to the city of kindness. To be often referred to as the happiest place on earth. But that is reserved often for those of us in Anaheim to about a 5-mile square radius. The happiest place on earth. The context of our city is the following. Is in our public schools, which Michael Matsuda, who's just an amazing, innovative, visionary educator, working with other visionary educators in the school district, over 90% of our children in our public schools are on free and reduced lunch. 20 to 25% of our children are in abject poverty. About 4,000 children are in unstable housing, living in motels, or on the streets, or on the riverbed. About 60% of our students are formal English learners, which doesn't mean they don't know English. It means they're trying to understand and learn academic English. A lot of people get confused. Wait, they speak English very well. In fact, moms and dads get confused because by first grade, kids are talking to their parents in English. Right? But it's that academic formal English that they're learning. That's the context of what we know of as the rest of Anaheim, that a lot of folks don't quite understand about it. So, welcome to our city. We're a city of kindness, and as Michael and Suda mentioned earlier, we're making that pivot in Anaheim because we're now recognizing as a city that if we're not partnering with our schools, then it's almost impossible for our education system to actually succeed with our children. We will have a few who will do well. But if we're going to really do this together, as Jean Anion says in her research and scholarships, if you want to improve education policy, you must improve social policy around the families. You must improve their economic condition. You must improve their transportation. You must improve their housing condition. If you truly want children to maximize their potential and for educators to maximize their professional work with our youth. So what led this poem and what leads me to Anaheim and to run for city council, to be on the school board, is the same politics that led me to want to be a professor. Is that, as Ross Perot once said, the most difficult politics that he's ever encountered, even after running for president of the United States. You all remember Ross Perot, right? I often forget. I'm listening to KRS 101 now because it's 90s music. I remember that. We used to hate KRS 101 because it was 50s and 60s. You're like, oh my God, that's like segregation type music. Sorry, that was Chicanos things. So that was 50s, 60s time. It's not me. And now I'm listening to KRS 101. So anyway, Ross Perot once famously said that the most difficult politics he ever engaged in were not the presidential politics, it was education politics. Because the stakes are so high. We're talking about people's children, or at least a belt that says other people's children. So when we started our process in the United States and we moved here, education was the #1 goal, not simply because it was a social mobility, which for a lot of our working class students is my parents weren't really looking to see what I was learning. They wanted to make sure that we learned English really well so that we could escape or be able to be a facade of being an American. Because if immigration officials asked you, where are you born, where are you from, what do your parents do, you got to be able to speak English really well, and then that way there's no probable cause, like, oh, okay, you're just another kid. But if you have an accent, that creates probable cause, they start to ask more questions. That's when my parents really pushed English on us really, really well. I mean, just strongly pushed that on us. So you really then learn as an immigrant child that language is not about developing your mind, it's not about developing your creativity or your sense of self or identity, it's about becoming something else. It's about becoming what somebody else wants you to be. And so I became an American. Right? I became an American. So when I got to college, we got our immigration, our papers, I guess now my academic and my community and my politics side. So we got our papers through IRCA, through the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, under the pen of Ronald Reagan. Right? Under the pen of Ronald Reagan, something Obama didn't do. Even when he had a Democrat legislature. Didn't do it. So Ronald Reagan signs our papers, and he said, trust but verify, when he's talking about foreign policy. And those two things, Ronald Reagan signing my papers, and then watching him take me on the Soviet Union saying trust but verify has guided everything we do. Because that's what it was like to be an immigrant. Right? We trust you're an American, but we got to verify it. Right? Talk to us a little bit. Where are you from? What do you do? Raise your right hand. Do you swear allegiance to this country? Do you really believe you're an American? So we believe we're an American, and then we get to college, and all of a sudden we start getting exposed to history. Because our history books, we know, don't teach us that history. We learned that the Mexican-American War was, we bought the land for $15 million, and came, and we settled, and manifest destiny, and destiny were manifested. And so the social order we see is just a product of the natural state of things. And so we began to internalize that process until you get, for many of us, to college, and then we start to learn the process. And then you began to walk around campus, and then you realize, oh my God, where is everybody? We went to UC Irvine. We heard all this stuff about Orange County, Orange Curtain, growing up in Oxnard. Like, this is pretty nice. And there's no graffiti, right? There's Irvine, it's very cleansed, for those of you who know Irvine. So it's pretty nice. But then you start getting asked things. So if 3 of us were hanging out somewhere around campus, the police officers would come around and say, so what are you young men up to? I don't know, why don't you ask those 3 young men who are wearing Greek letters? If we rode around the city, or to go to Newport Beach, we were followed regularly. And when we tried to communicate that to our administrators, it was with this glazed look, like, well, that sounds strange. Right? What we now know is microaggressions. So we go through the process of UC Irvine, trying to understand our sense of identity, college student development, got our citizenship, and went to my citizenship interview. That's one of the other things I want to share, is the irony of the citizenship process. How many of you have been through the citizenship process? Isn't it like so easy? As they say, it's just simple. You just show up, fill out some paperwork, and you swear allegiance, and you're good, right? For me, it was a 10-year process after getting our green card, and you still have to do an interview. Even through the green card process, as an undocumented immigrant, we were under deportation proceedings. We had to go to see a judge every 6 months to see how our grades are, to see how our language is going, and make sure we're not getting into trouble. Ronald Reagan, as I mentioned, signed our papers. We start the process of citizenship. And there's one last thing to do, right, which is the citizenship interview, where you have to go speak with a citizen, with an immigration agent. So I flew back. We were in Boston at the time, finishing up my graduate studies. Actually, it was my year that I was finishing my dissertation proposal at Harvard, right? Harvard. So come back to Oxnard, walk in, the immigration agent, and he says, you know, this is the last stage. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you know, if you do well, then you're all good. And I was so freaking nervous. Can I say that? It's an academic term. I was so nervous. You're so nervous, and you just walk in and you see this guy in the uniform and he's just staring at you. It's like, you know, this is your last stage, and okay. And he says, are you ready to begin? And I don't know what overcame me, but in that moment, I just started laughing. I started laughing. I was like, oh my God. I started laughing. And he says, I'm sorry, sir, I don't see anything funny in the room. Is there something you want to share? He's like, I'm sorry, this is really, really crazy. He says, well, I'm sorry, sir, we take our job very serious. This process is a very serious one. I don't see what's so humorous about it. He said, well, okay, so let's think about this. So this is where academics training is horrible, because now you're always thinking questions. Let's step back and think about it. As my colleague said, let's unpack this, right? So the immigration agent said, let's unpack this. So I'm sitting here in front of you. This is the last step for my citizenship, right? He said, right. He said, so I was brought here when I was 4 years old. I did my entire schooling in the United States. You're going to ask me questions about history, government. I learned all that. I passed all the exams. I got grades. I got on the honor roll. I went to UC Irvine. I'm now at Harvard, the world's most prestigious, I won't say best, I'll just say the world's most prestigious university. You know, and I'm now sitting here with you, and you're going to ask me very basic history questions, and if I don't answer them right, you won't accept me as a citizen. Yet, I was trained entirely by your institutions. How crazy would that be? And he looks at me, he's like, you know what, you passed, you can go. So I feel like that was an imposter moment, right? I was like, I had to pretend like I got to prove something to somebody when all of my credentials already said, why is this guy even in the room? Why is he even in the room? Right? It's just hazing. It's just cultural hazing at that point, right? The second anecdote I want to share that fits with this question about liberty, and I'm ambitious about wanting to be a citizen, but now this critical mind comes in, which is why what our school district is doing is so amazing. Critical minds. It's our first day at Harvard, and Louis, I think you went through, well, you didn't go with me, but you went through the same orientation process. Right? Harvard, in its wisdom, started a student of color orientation program because students of color who had gone to the institution said, look, man, this is isolating, it's very difficult, we really kind of like to see that there's other folks like us around, and we don't want to wait till the first day of school to see them in our class, to go sit next to them, and then people say we're self-segregating. Nobody ever asked the other folks. So, first day of student orientation. Excuse me. First day of student orientation, the admissions officer for the Harvard Graduate School of Education standard, there's about, how many was it, Lloyd? We were in the same class. 100? 100 of us? About 100 of us in a room like this, and we're standing there with cheese and some wine. Wow, fancy, all right. You know, we came from public institutions, right? And so he says, welcome all of you to the reception this evening. We're so glad to see you, but there is an announcement to make. He says we have looked at all of your applications. We've reviewed all of them when you came in. As part of our process, we review them again after your admission. And so we have some announcements to make for some students. And so we're all like, holy smokes. Something went wrong. Like, they found out I had a D. They found something out. And we're all looking at each other like, oh my God. Right? It was an amazing, amazing experience. That all these Chicano, African American students, Asian American, we're all looking at American students, looking at that, oh my God, which one of these is going to go? And he says, I'm proud to tell you, you're all accepted, you're all good, and you're welcome to Harvard. And we're like, what? And he did that to us purposely to say, you all belong. Stop questioning whether you belong here. So now that we're through that anxiety, now let's get to work. We've got a lot of work to do here. Nice. We're like, oh my God, give me some wine. It was a powerful way to bring out that internalized anxiety that we all, well, I shouldn't say that many of us feel when we're amongst the first. Or that when we're told, don't blow it. Don't mess it up. Right? Or, you got there, but you know, they messed up, dude. Your application got stuck with somebody else's. So it was a powerful moment for us. Again, the belief that we were free, we made it here, but we're still with this internalized sense that we don't belong. This sense of tenuous sense of belonging. Right? And that's what these rhetorics that we're hearing, that are not new, continue to do. Maybe that's their purpose, is to always make us feel, or some of us, that we don't belong. The third anecdote I want to share with you is more from the elected side, is when I was elected to the school board here in Anaheim. Again, the elementary districts, for Anaheim, over 80%, almost 80%, of all children under 18 years old in Anaheim are Latino kids. Striking. These are the children, right, of the folks who are serving them today. They're the folks who work this convention center, the folks who work the hotels and the resort, and who clean the offices out there, and who do a little bit of manufacturing in this lab. So I'm elected to the school board, we come back from vacation, and they call me in, they say, you need to come in to fill some paperwork as a new school board member at our HR office, because we have to be registered in as employees, because when you're a school board member, you do get a small stipend, so small stipend. You do have to fill out paperwork. So I go into HR, and I have jeans on, a polo shirt, and a jacket, and I walk in, and I said, hi, I'm here to fill out paperwork for the school board. And the woman at the HR says, Anglo-woman, she says, well, okay, but what for? I said, well, for the school board. I was told to come in to fill out paperwork for the school board. And she says, right, everybody has to do that. But for what? And I said, well, for the school board. Right, but for who? Well, for the school board. I was told I had to fill out paperwork for the Board of Education. And she says, right. But I get it, but for what position? For the school board. She says, right, I got you. But for what position? For facilities, for maintenance, for janitor, for what? I said, oh, no, oh, okay, we're there. I said, oh, no. I'm the school board member. So, it says, oh my God, you're the new school board member. I'm so sorry. And we proceeded to have an amazing conversation for an hour and a half, filling out paperwork, learning about her process here in Anaheim, how she got to Anaheim. It was an amazing process. What what that taught me was, yet again, right, in institutions where folks are not even breaking through, just present, there is this racialized projection, right? That it's impossible. Because some folks say, well, actually about 80% of the facilities maintenance guys in the school district are actually Latinos and they're male. Like, yeah, we know that. But doesn't that just reinforce, because we know that any Latino male who walks in must be in that position? That it couldn't come to the imagination whatsoever, right? So the colleagues said, yeah, but seriously, dude, like, who's going to know that you're a board member? Like, there's so few. Why would you expect them to know you're the school board member? It's like, no, that's not the issue. The issue is, why didn't you assume I was a teacher, right? Or a psychologist, right? It's that assumption, right, that is embedded. And so that's where we've learned through our work over the years that this thing about that someone is racist, as we're hearing today, caution us as academics, as practitioners, to move away from that. There are racist people, but what's really guiding people is racialized processes, right? We all breathe polluted air. We're all breathing the same polluted air. So Latinos are just as freaked out when they see a hijab as whites are, because they're breathing the polluted air. That must be. My mom sees Arab American folks, she's like, yeah. My mom sees an African American person, I bet you voted Obama. Right? We all project in many ways, but that doesn't make that racialization equal, and that's really important, right? Because the framework that we're educated in is in that white supremacist, patriarchal, heteronormative framework. Right? So we internalize it. But even in the education of Latin America, where my mom was educated, or Puerto Rico, right? William Watkins, historian, wrote this great book called The White Architects of Black Education. Right? Somebody has designed the education system for a purpose. And it's incumbent upon us as educators, be us formally in schools or universities or city councils or in other spaces, to constantly be educating ourselves and others about who we are. And understanding the miseducation we've been given. Right? So when we engage in this work of multicultural education, it's more, as we all know now, for many of us, it's more than food, it's more than symbols, it's more than festivals. It's about curriculum. It's about the curriculum in our teacher ed programs, the question I was asked earlier. They asked Mr. Matsuda, what do we need to do to better train our teacher education folks? I'd like to posit the following to you as a teacher educator who teaches at Cal State Long Beach, preparing future teachers. Many of our students, most of them in Long Beach, in our class, my classes and our Latino students, with themselves don't know their own history. And they're going to go and teach the fourth grade project on missions. And they're going to have kids redoing the very mission projects that we know really don't really teach our kids true history. Right? And having a little essay about, well, the Indians were kind of your first two, but it's not enough. It's the critical component of interrogating history. So what we're asking folks to do, what I'd like to ask you to do, and it's hard at the city council level, I'll tell you, because as Mike said, we're trying to engage our city as a whole. And a lot of folks think that cities have no role in education. And educators don't also prepare teachers or administrators to engage the politics of education. So I would urge you, if you're a teacher educator, or if you're in the process of that, or thinking about it, or an administrative educator, to make sure that you use a framework with them that is about education as a political project. Not a partisan political project, but as a political project. Schools, universities, institutions, or organizations that are embedded in an overall education system and society. We are all human beings that we make decisions at the micro, at the meso, and the macro level. Right? So to understand why a child isn't learning to read, is not simply about the child, right? It's about, we know the child's home, but then we often say, well, something's got to be done at home to fix the parents. So we think of deficit. cities take the same deficit approach to their residents. Right? Something must be wrong in that neighborhood. Let's do a gang injunction. Right? That's a deficit approach. And that gang injunction then impacts the child who's in your school, who impacts the university student in your classroom because that university student is worried about his little brother. Or the immigration raids that are happening, that our students in Long Beach are reporting, they can't concentrate because they're worried about, is dad going to be pulled over today? Or is their sister going to be pulled over? Or will they? Right? So being mindful as educators about this work as a political project, and that politics is the process of various groups. It's always there. It's our own interest as groups. So as educators, we have to exercise that political interest for our students and our youth and our communities within it. I'm going to close with a quote from Paulo Freire, who I would recommend to every city council person, state legislator, and teacher, educator, and kindergartner. I mean that. We asked him once in a conversation with Paulo Freire, where should a student, grad student, ask him, Paulo, your work is so esoteric. How do we teach this in our schools? And he looked at him and says, you shouldn't be teaching. If you have to ask that question, you should not be teaching. Right? How do we teach critical work if it's so esoteric? Right? Esotericism is a social construct that you've decided to impose and or reapply, it says. So he says, in a book called Teachers as Cultural Workers, Letters to Those Who Dare Teach by Paulo Freire, we must dare, in the full sense of the word, to speak of love without the fear of being called ridiculous, mawkish, or unscientific, if not anti-scientific. We must dare in order to say scientifically and not as mere blah, 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 that we study, we learn, we teach, we know with our entire body. We do all of these things with feeling, with emotion, with wishes, with fear, with doubts, with passion, and also with critical reasoning. However, we never study, learn, teach, or know with the last only. We must dare so as never to dichotomize cognition and emotion. We must dare so that we can continue to teach for a long time under conditions that we know well. Low salaries, lack of respect, and the ever-present risk of becoming prey to cynicism. We must dare to learn how to dare in order to say no to the bureaucratization of the mind to which we are exposed every day. We must dare so that we can continue to do so even when it is so much more materially advantaged to stop daring. So please, don't stop daring. Dare to challenge yourself, to challenge our youth, and to challenge those around us to be fully human in the world. Thank you very much for your attention and your engagement.